voice. I get worried.
Radio voice.
He
This is my
said,
voice.
I
all
get
day,
worried.
every day.
No, there's a difference. Haven't you seen? I need to send you those posts of like broadcasters who do their broadcast voice at home and how it drives their husband crazy.
Yes, I've seen
See
one
that,
of those.
Right? When she comes in, I'm like, good evening. So I'm now walking through the door and I'm going to serve my husband his wonderful meal for dinner. And
We
he's
are
like,
in
"You
already."
just shut up.
Oh, wow. All right. Do you know, I was like, oh, yeah, the music is playing. I forgot that the music is the ad. You know, the ad is the music.
You first. First bang. You first, first
And here we are. It is that time when Freshly Pressed comes to Smooth Breakfast. I'm Shokma Martins, and this is Smooth Breakfast. Joining me for the next half hour, I've got two gentlemen in for a Friday. I have got Waji Jibona, aka the corporate MC with a K. Good morning, Waji. How you doing?
Good morning, Shopper. Hope you're well. What's happening, Fidel? And good morning, Lagos.
Yes, Fidel. You might know him as at Izotane up on social media. Fidel, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Shopper.
All right, great to have both of you joining me for the stories that we've got today because it's going to be interesting in Lagos for a little while now. Let's see how all of this plays out. And of course, we've got you. Make sure you join us with your analysis, your thoughts, share your opinions on the topics we've got today. We are streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Hello, good morning. And you can leave a comment up on the live stream. We are also accepting comments, thoughts, opinions on WhatsApp. The number to send messages into is 0809 440 981 and use that hashtag freshlypressed981 on Twitter. Tag us in. We are at smooth981fm. All right, let's take a look at the stories we've got for you today. Coming in from the Punch newspaper, we've got this one: Crisis. MC Oluomo and Lagos NURTW break away from national body. Now, the National Union of Road Transport Workers, the Lagos State Council's chairman, Alhaji Musiliu Akinsoya, aka MC Oluomo, on Thursday announced the withdrawal of himself and the members of the state's council from the national body a few hours after the NURTW headquarters had suspended him for alleged insubordination. Fidel, what does this mean? What are we expecting to see? What are the streets of Lagos going to look like? Tell us your thoughts.
I mean, it is well. So MC Oluomo has peacefully decided to withdraw himself and his members from the umbrella body that is NURTW. Now, I don't know how peaceful it is for you to withdraw yourself and other people. I don't know at what time they all unanimously agreed that they were all gonna, leave the body as well. But I mean, it's in the interest of peace, as he says. I don't know what it is exactly that he did, but it's been couched as insubordination by the umbrella body, and he's called on Lagos State government to take charge of the body, of control of the garages and whatever it is in Lagos. I don't know if this is gonna be upsetting to any areas, but so far so good. I've noticed that there's been some calm, and in some other reports I've seen that security operatives have been deployed. But I mean, I like the fact that the gentleman has called for peace, not once, not twice. I mean, we've seen antecedents in the past where the squabbles between NURTW members, but I like the fact that he's calling for peace, and
I'm going according to the Constitution. So Waji, I saw you shaking your head for a moment there. Did you have something that you wanted to add to this?
No, it's just NURTW have become one of these. I'm going to call them a lobby group. I think that's one of the best ways to describe them, or like a military arm or an enforcement arm that politicians use. And for me, when these things start happening, it's the murmurings of elections coming, because this chess moves now start to move and everything else. So I do appreciate that MC Oloma has called for peace. That is very important, and I hope, like Fidel said, that with some of the calm that we have seen that wasn't anticipated. Because I think a few days ago there were security alerts that because of these things that have happened, people need to be careful, especially around bus parks and places like that. But for me, as always, larger conversations need to be had about how do we now move towards a more progressive society. Unions of this size should not have this much control over transportation practices in any state in Nigeria. So that for me is where the issue always comes down to.
Really, but I feel that unions, and we've seen this in the past in other countries as well, that unions, they have clouds. They have very real, very major clouds that goes on to affect politics as well.
Chopper, you're British. You saw what Michael Thatcher did to the unions
I
in the 80s.
saw.
Exactly. So you cannot be bigger than government. I'm sorry. You cannot be.
No one is bigger than this.
Okay, no one is. So you're right. Unions have built themselves up to have political clout, but when you cross that line and the government decides enough is enough, you are not bigger than government. I'm sorry. And that's what unions need to remember.
All right, then, let's see if they do. New Telegraph News now. I'll return as APC chair after medical trip, says Booney in leaked letters. I love how Aji just starts chuckling over there. So a leaked letter from the governor, Mai Mala Booney of Yobe State, says that he intends to return as the chairman of the caretaker committee of the APC once he returns from his medical leave. That's what the leaked letter revealed. Now, we had heard from Kaduna State Governor Nasir El Rufai, who on Wednesday stated that although he willingly transmitted power to his successor, well, Bello, although, right now, according to the stories, he differs, that they soon discovered that his committee had no plan of conducting the March 26th convention, but were making secret moves to postpone it on the strength of a court injunction. And now we've seen this letter dated from the February 28th. I mean, what do you say to this, Raji?
All right, so there are two stories within the story. I think the first one is pretty much what you captured, which is the fact that this committee and the person chairing the committee has handed over power to the governor of Niger State in reference to him going on a medical trip, and then El Rufai now coming out to say that, well, that wasn't the case because from my understanding, this thing wasn't going to happen to begin with, the planned convention for March 26th. So as a result, it's just more or less like smoke and mirrors. So that's one story, and it's pretty straightforward. So they sort that out however they can. The next story for me within this story, Shopper, is, and insights is, why do these individuals always travel anytime they have a cold?
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
I'm always going to bring it up.
I thought this is why you guys keep asking him to go and run for something.
I'm always going to bring this up because when you now begin to look at the recent legislation, hoopla that's been brought up regarding anybody in public service will be banned from the awards going to schools abroad, and for them seeking medical facilities abroad, because when you literally have to run to Dubai or any part of the developed nation for those services, you subconsciously neglect those services here at home. That is just how the brain works. And I always wonder to myself, I mean, when I was younger, I thought maybe it has something to do with age. But the older I get, I keep saying to myself, okay, the few times I do get sick, going abroad isn't my first thought. So is it that these individuals are, and forgive me for what I'm about to say, are not physically fit for office? Do we need to have medical requirements for these individuals if they always have to go abroad for physical checkups? Is that something we need to actually have in place to actually qualify you to run for office? A very stressful job to begin with. So do you, because I mean, Fidel, when you go for employment, you do have to have medical checkups. You have to be medically cleared to be employed in certain jobs.
Very true.
So shouldn't the same apply to government? And if people are not medically cleared, then that now brings in question their capacity to serve in those positions. Because if they have to keep going abroad, that now indicates that that these illnesses are quite serious. You can't just go abroad for a common cold or malaria or anything like that. So
for a checkup.
So I think for me, the larger conversation embedded within the story is how do we right this mentality of I'm going to Dubai for a medical checkup, so therefore I'm going to now neglect what I have been sworn into office to do. And I'm now going to hand over powers, but then the real reason why I'm doing that is because the convention was going to happen to begin with. It's just confusion. So I think for me, at a base level, let's begin to right some wrongs. So we now begin to eliminate people going off for medical reasons and things like that, so that we come back to the real business of doing work that's going to make Nigeria a very progressive society.
All right, now we've got your messages coming in. We've got this one in from Yinka Bolu, who says, if they withdraw from the national body, will they also stop collecting Owoload? Because there's no point withdrawing from the national and still collecting the money like this. But MC Oluomo calling for peace is like a cat claiming to watch over fried meat for safety. All right, Yinka, you shared your thoughts. Also, Tayo from Aja says, with the way MC Oluomo is giving directives, I'm tempted to believe that he's the commissioner of transport. With all this responsibility, he still wants to be Oba of Oshodi. He must be very hardworking. More power to you,
I
sir.
love that. That was
He
brilliant.
says,
That
I
was
also
brilliant.
don't know if I should plaster my private car with his sticker in support of this boss-like move.
Yeah.
As the Lagos chapter has pulled out, do Danfo drivers have a choice to remain with the national union since it is constitutional? Interesting. All right, so keep on sending your messages in youtube.com/smooth one FM Lagos. You can leave a comment up on the live stream. Hashtag freshly pressed 981 and send WhatsApp messages into 0809 444 981. Going into this article from the Punch newspaper, bandits came with sophisticated weapons. Kebbi deputy governor recounts ordeal. Now, in the deputy governor Samaila Yombe Dabai's words, the bandits mixed up with the inhabitants of Kenya in such a way that it was difficult to differentiate and fight them. So I advised my security team that we pull them out of the community so that we could pull them along and separate them from the inhabitants. They were equipped with PSA AKP and much heavier caliber weapons than AK-47. He goes on to say that despite this, that the soldiers at one point it looked like they were in their hundreds, whilst there was a unit of about 30 troops of soldiers escorting the commanding officer. So first of all, Fidel, commendations to the 223 battalion and the vigilante groups who warded off the attacks and suffered casualties in doing so. But how worried should we be from the deputy governor's account of what happened and the caliber of weaponry that the attackers displayed?
I mean, at least thank God we have this kind of accounts coming from the deputy governor of Kebbi State. So there should be some credibility attached to it. It's not something that the Nigerian army can come out and say this is not true, it's false or something. So at least we know this indeed is happening. We know that these guys have weapons that, you know, civilians ought not to have. And also, like you said, I do commend the members of the 223 battalion. However, the issue here is, can we come and face reality that these guys are still in northern Nigeria? They are still controlling society, because the worrisome part is that the Kebbi deputy governor's account says they mixed up with, you know, the people there, the inhabitants. So they mixed up with the inhabitants, and the inhabitants didn't raise an alarm. That's to show control, you know. So that is the worrisome part. I mean, this guerrilla warfare, they seem to be winning, because it wasn't like they were neutralized. It's more like they had to pull. I mean, the Kebbi State deputy governor was giving military tactics.
Well, that's the thing with asymmetric warfare, though, isn't it? And the Nigerian military apparatus, because we have seen historically that they do not have as much success rate as just direct conflict, right? So yes, you are talking about them mixing up with the inhabitants, but we've seen this before. We've seen this with Boko Haram. We've seen this in different parts of the geopolitical zones. What you wanted to say?
But I've said this before, that you cannot fight a guerrilla warfare using military tactics, because military tactics is literally to go in and neutralize.
And we go back to hearts and minds.
Exactly. So you have to go back to hearts and minds. You have to be able to now engage the community, make things viable for them, make things interesting for them, and the community would take care of it on their own. The community would smoke these people out and point out and say, okay, that these guys are the ones disrupting the way that we're living our lives, and we need them to go.
And so, Fidel, what does
Yeah.
this say about the trust that we have between the community and the military?
It's low. It's low. I mean, there's been stories in the past about how these guys are controlling, whether it's Boko Haram, whether it's ISWAP, that they collect taxes, they collect revenue from different communities, not just one. There's been stories about even hoisting flags. So clearly, there's no confidence in the government, and even the soldiers there.
Well, some would say that they're running their own government at this point.
Thank
They are
you.
collecting. Yes.
The point is, for some people, that's the only form of government they see.
That's it. I mean, so I when you say collecting revenue and they run a government, I'm careful, because if you want to tie it to the first story, I mean, let's say that's a matter of fact. In Lagos, there are people who collect monies from other negotiants, and it's as a matter of right. There's a police officer standing there, and when a tout or a whatever they are go to collect money from these bus conductors or people who are running like a cabbie, they have to pay them. Okay, so do we equate them to do we equate it to a government or just simply extortion? Okay, there's a line there. Is it extortion, or is it as a matter of tax or duty that they have to pay these guys? I want to be optimistic and not take it to that level, but yeah, there is a dearth of trust in the people and the government or the Nigerian military, whoever it is that is in charge of those areas, because it's worrisome. It's worrisome.
Oh wow! Sorry, we just got a message in from Tunji regarding what you had touched on with medical leave abroad. And Tunji up on WhatsApp says one certain politician told a group of people he was talking to that he can't go to a hospital in Nigeria just in case someone plans to use a doctor to kill him. Okay then. All right, let's take a look at this New Telegraph story. The headline reads, 2 injured and vehicles burnt in Lagos Ibadan Expressway tanker. Now, going into the story, the Lagos Ibadan Expressway is now notorious for road crashes. We've had multiple lives lost this year, and this particular incident involved multiple crashes occurring around the Mountain of Fire and Miracles Ministry Prayer City. This happened about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've heard from the public education officer of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Ogun Command, Florence Okwe, who blamed the accident on speeding, brake failure, and loss of control on the part of the articulate truck. Now, Waji, the good news is there were no deaths, but the bad news is this is not the first time we've seen accidents on this scale, and we keep seeing them with what is distressing frequency. Please share your thoughts with us.
I don't know. I feel like every so often it's like a recurring headline that we just have to put back into the news stories, because this Lagos Ibadan Expressway has been going on for decades. And thankfully, like you said, there were no reported lives that were lost, only 2 people injured. So let's be very, very grateful about that. But notwithstanding, the issues prevail. When the federal government is going to work with the state entities to ensure that that expressway, given the amount of vehicular traffic that goes between those 2 routes, is fixed, I honestly don't know how we're going to avoid this issue over and over again. The second aspect, which is connected to the first, is the people, and it's always the articulated vehicles that cause these issues. Number one, the articulated vehicles are not in good shape. Number 2, like I indicated, the roads are terrible, so that just makes it worse. And number 3, for me, at the same time, because people do not pay attention to road safety laws, speeding laws, the way that they fly on that expressway is also another recipe for disaster. And the fourth is the state of the drivers. The drivers oftentimes are inebriated, they're oftentimes sleep deprived, and they're off their minds, and they're driving articulated vehicles at uncontrollable speeds on very bad roads. So when you now combine all those things, it's an absolute recipe for disaster. So we now have to figure out how do we tackle each one by one to mitigate the disaster. Fixing the roads is a long-term play. It needs to start today so you can get it done over a period of time. Then the other element is to make sure, number two, how do you now make sure that these vehicles are roadworthy? This is where Federal Road Safety Law comes in, to make sure you pull off the vehicles from the road that are not worthy enough to be on the road. Then the next aspect is how do you ensure that you have driver safety protocols for individuals that are now driving articulated vehicles, making sure that they are properly rested, making sure that they're not inebriated, and number three, that they have the right understanding of how to handle a heavy purpose vehicle. That is how we approach this thing to fix it. We have to tackle it layer by layer. It's not just a one bullet, silver bullet situation that's going to solve all of it. So we need to be very tactical about how we go over everything. They can be dimensioned part by part, but at least let's begin to tackle one after the other so that you mitigate all these issues.
All right, now let's take a look at the next article. Lawmaker urges reps. Okay, let me try that again with a straight face. Lawmaker urges reps to end COVID-19 masking rule. This comes in from the Punch newspaper. And do keep on sending your messages in via WhatsApp, via Twitter, and of course on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. On the live stream, I will be reading them out in just a bit. Now, let's get into the story from the Punch newspaper. So, a member of the House of Representatives, Olufemi Adebanjo, representing Alimosho Federal Constituency on Thursday, protested against the wearing of face masks in the chamber. Now, he raised a point of order in which he argued that members no longer obey the COVID-19 protocols and the House should therefore suspend the wearing of masks in the chamber because it has adverse health implications. And, according to him, the COVID-19 pandemic is over. Fidel, what would you say to that?
I mean, I don't know the academic qualifications of Mr. Olufemi Adebanjo, but I mean, I don't know if he's a doctor or has some health qualifications of some sort, but I mean, I agree with him to some extent that indeed wearing a face mask has become an activity of discretion in a lot of organizations. I mean, we can't take that away. You see, some institutions will enforce it and some will not. And now he's asking his own institution to not enforce it or even take it out. But the question is, when you do that, and he says that COVID-19 is there's no more COVID-19 in Nigeria, and then maybe because of that's what he says. He says
also said outside of Nigeria, by the way.
Outside Nigeria. I mean, look, with all the buzz going on in Ukraine and Russia, it's taking the front seat.
Sorry, hold on. Let me just quote him directly so that you know I'm quoting from the article. It says, "I have not heard of any case of COVID in Nigeria or abroad." Back to you, Fidel.
So yeah, I mean, this is like I said, it's no longer taking the number 1, 2, 3 stories in the headlines because of what has been happening in the last few weeks or so. But this is the thing. He says it has adverse effects. That's the wearing of the mask. I think he should be pushing instead to ensure that people in the house have gotten vaccinated. That is himself, other lawmakers, as well as the members of staff, working in the house and working around, the complex, the Senate complex. He should be pushing for that. But now this is the question: what happens when you have visitors coming or coming into the building or coming into the premises? They're not. So you're saying they shouldn't be wearing masks, and then you don't know about their own vaccination status. You don't know if they have COVID, and then they're talking to someone and they could infect someone. And let's not forget that even a couple of Nigerians who came in the one of the flights from Ukraine, some of them tested positive to COVID. So yes. How can you now say that, okay, we should make it a standing order or make it a point of order that people should no longer wear masks in the complex?
Now, with what has been going on for the past couple of years, it's safe to say that people are experiencing COVID-19 fatigue with the amount of news that has been going on. Recent news coming out that there were 6 million deaths worldwide, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so this is still an issue, and we've heard from the World Health Organization that this is still an issue that should be on high alert, but it has really been pushed down in priority. Fidel, you're right. When we look at the news that is dominating the world stage currently, just like what happened with the Black Lives Matter movement in America, where everybody now came out, forgot about COVID-19 for a second, and we're just out there in their masses. Somehow, when you've lived with this thing for so long, it's normalized to a
Yeah.
certain degree.
But I like to see it as an an operation rather than calling it that new normal. It's yeah, I mean it's gonna go, right? It's gonna go. But until then, sir, please for now, just wear the mask.
Is it going to go, or is it going to be like the flu? All right, let's take a look at the messages coming in. We've got this one in from D from Alausa. Says, Fidel, good analysis on the labeling of extortioners for what they are, rather than saying that they have set up a government. Good Lagos example. Whilst Fred from Festac says, it's not the fact that the Russia-Ukraine war took the front seat, but because the rules are just unnecessarily draconian. The vaccine was never a safety measure. Even the UK has dropped all COVID-19 rules, so we should follow suit. And Christian from Apapa says the FRSC should stop issuing licenses to those who don't know how to drive.
Right.
All right. Whilst Tayo from Aja says that lawmaker on COVID-19 is competing with comedians in Nigeria. Keep on sending your messages in. Thank you so much for all the messages that we're seeing up on YouTube. We'll have our people working on it in the background. All right, let's take a look at this next this next story from This Day newspaper. Osayande, approval of hijab for female police officers unconstitutional. Now, something that dominated conversation last week was when the IG last week approved a new dress code following allowing hijab for female officers in the Nigeria police force. Now, the dress code also allows female officers to wear stud earrings under their berets or peak caps while in uniform. However, we heard from a retired Deputy Inspector General of Police, Pari Osayende, who condemned this move and this approval of hijab for female police officers, and he cited the 1999 constitution, saying that even though it was superimposed on Nigerian, we still cannot disregard it whenever we want. But your thoughts on this?
All right. In contextually, I understand where he's coming from regarding, what is defined as uniform. Okay, and if it's embedded within the Nigerian constitution that you cannot do this and cannot do that if you happen to be a uniform member of the Nigerian police force, then that is something that should be adhered to. If that is indeed the case, Shopper, that's where we need to begin with. But at the same time, this is just a bunch of nonsense. This is a retired person that's coming in offering an opinion on what a woman should and should not do once again. And that is just, for me, not where we should be going towards being progressive as a society. If the Inspector General of Police has okayed the wearing of a hijab so that a Muslim woman can express her religious freedom and be in uniform at the same time, I don't know why anybody should be triggered by that. If the IG of police has indicated that a woman can wear earring studs under her beret so that she can express her femininity however which way she wants, I don't know why anybody should be triggered by that. So people need to step away from their prejudices and their biases and just ask themselves, is the storm worth the noise that you are making? And that's where the real issue is. Leave women to be how they want to be. If the IG of police is okay with a female wearing a hijab because she wants to express her religious freedom, or she wants to wear a stud earring, or if she wants to wear makeup, that is entirely their call. Okay? And more importantly, that's why I like the word that they use. You're retired. So your opinions are your opinions, and you can take them back to the century with which you retired towards.
Oh, wow.
Let's move away from being anti-progressive and let women be, man. Let's stop mansplaining. It's completely uncalled for.
Okay, and I have nothing on that. And final news comes in from the Vanguard. A federal government seeks U.S. funding for Nigeria's natural gas development. Fidel, I'll come to you for this one very quickly. Your thoughts on this, what the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Chief Timothy Silva, had to say during his meeting with the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm.
Well, as I mean, this is typical operations for executives when they're abroad. More funding come and invest, come and invest, come and invest. When we haven't really done much. I mean, he's banking on, okay, there's problem in Russia, and then between Russia and Ukraine, I beg your pardon, and then Nigeria is a good, alternative. However, I still, or I believe, most of the time we should push for funding within Africa, because I mean, you're telling America to come and fund a project where we are moving gas from Nigeria all the way to Europe, and then we're going to move it through northern Nigeria where there's a crisis. I don't know how they're going to buy that story. I don't know how they're going to invest in it. Good luck with that. But I mean, we have people who need this gas in Africa. Why don't we market it to them?
All right, that's all we've got time for today's episode of Freshly Pressed. Thank you so much, Fidel, for joining me, and thank you to you, Waji. People keep calling on him for him to go and serve in public offices. And make sure you go and find them. We are on social media. Find us at Smooth981FM up on Twitter, at Smooth981 on Instagram, and you can find them at the Corporate MC, corporate spelled with a K. That is where Waji is on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find Fidel at Izotene up on social media as well. Coming up, 8:15, it's going to be Sports Inside the Locker Room.
First bank.
So you got the first bank thing right.
What do you mean?
So your first bank. Remember you missed it last week.
Oh, yeah.
Can I see some of the comments?
Yeah, for some, I think. All right, thank you all. See you on another episode of sometime.